seems that West Ham are going to be having another situation with a striker that we spent a lot of money on isn't really working out. Now, I'm not alluding to the fact that he hasn't been playing because he hasn't been playing because of injury, with a knee injury. What I want to discuss with you, Riley, was the recent absence of Scamacca at the Newcastle game. So, for people that didn't see it, there was a video of Scamacca arriving with the team and etc. And then he left about whatever it was, a period of time later, before kickoff. Now, what we've been told about this is that, and this is from XWHU employee who's confirmed this on Patreon, on our Patreon site, that basically that the player was scheduled to have a scan on his knee at the club or have it assessed before the game. He had it assessed and they decided no, he wasn't going to be able to play. The thing that's annoyed me quite a lot about this, and I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill here because it's probably not the biggest deal in the world, is the fact that he's left the ground. I don't understand why you wouldn't stay and support your teammates. It just seems a very peculiar thing to do. And I certainly, as the manager, wouldn't be very happy if one of my players said, no, I'm not going to play. Well, I'm going to go home then. I think that just shows a lack of togetherness, a bit like a support. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh. I don't know. Riley, what are your thoughts on it, mate?
Yeah, I'm not really sure on his reasoning, maybe, for doing that. I mean, the amount of times I've seen players who know they aren't going to be playing that day, just in the stands, watching the team, supporting the team. You know, if Declan Rice is ever injured or got a red card, he's always up there in the stands.
Yeah.
It does seem a very strange situation. I don't know if, like, he had plans with the missus that night that he thought,
going Westfield.
Yeah, I was just gonna play a quick game of football, and then I'll nip back. And he was like, "Oh well, I might as well get back early." But I don't really know what the situation is, but he doesn't really carry himself as somebody who is enjoying his time at the football club. I'll put it that way. And I think we have just got Haller 2.0 on our hands, a player that Moyes has brought in, didn't really know a lot about, didn't really know how to use him properly, hasn't used him properly, hasn't, used his man management skills to, convince him that we're going to bleed you into the team and that, we're going to build the team around you, sort of thing.
Yeah.
My gut feeling is he might be off in the summer, unless there's a new manager and he might be able to sit there and convince Scamacca that he's part of his plans. It's just going to be a big shame because you just know he's going to go to a big team, and just like Haller, he's going to be banging in goals week in, week out, mysteriously not going to be injured ever again. I'm pretty sure he hasn't been injured since he's been playing football, and all of a sudden he comes to West Ham and he starts having these injuries.
Yeah. The West Ham curse, mate. Well, if you remember, he was injured before the international break. Then he went away on the international break, played for Italy.
Every single game.
Hasn't played since. So I'm just getting a bit tired of this constant injury issue we seem to have with these players. But yeah, I'm totally with you, mate. It's just got the hallmarks of a player that's very unhappy. I mean, we're hearing the total opposite, though. That apparently from the inside the club, he is completely committed. Another interesting development with Scamacca was that obviously we had this agents changeover. Do you remember that was about a month or so ago, maybe 2 months ago? And that was that for some reason that made the press. And the reason it made the press was actually, I know the reason, sorry, there is a reason it made the press, is because this agency that left him put out a statement about it, which is quite strange. And it actually had a bit of a dig at him and basically saying, well, we don't want him because he's not committed and all this stuff. Very odd statement they put out. But apparently it's very commonplace that players change their agencies. It's very normal. So why this one was kind of in the press, or they made a song and dance about it, I don't really know. But it did. It made the press because they put out the statement. And then what's interesting is, though, his new agency are the same agency, I think, that managed Joe Cole. Joe Cole's or he's involved in it or something like that. I need to know a bit more about it. I probably should have done a little bit more checking up on this, but there is a connection with Joe Cole in this. And apparently from the noise from X is saying that from the agencies that the player is loving life in England and loves playing for the club and he's very dedicated and there's nothing to worry about. See, that's all good words. And when you hear all these sort of things, you think, great, that's what we want to hear. He's main striker, happy at West Ham. But mate, I don't care what anyone says, like, the actions speak louder than words, and him walking out that ground did not look good. Like, end of the day, it's a game of football. He's not... If he was terribly injured and walking off in crutches and he's got his knee, and I totally understand it and say, look, I need to get home. I need to rest my leg up. I'll be better off sitting indoors watching it. I totally would get it. But the fact he was walking around quite comfortably, I don't know. It screams to me that there's problems. And dare I say it? Oh God, I'm going to have to just say it. is it down to David Moyes? Is the relationship there too damaged? I don't know. Because that to me doesn't look a very healthy relationship between David Moyes and Scamacca. They just don't. Something's not quite clicking. It's got Hilaire written all over it again. But I don't know, mate. What do you? Can you see a bit of light in the tunnel for Scamacca, or do you think? Can you honestly say? Can you see Scamacca being at West Ham next season?
I mean, ultimately, it probably is down to him, I would say. I mean, if Moyes is there next season, I wouldn't be shocked to see that he tries to offload him, which I just think would be stupid. But, I mean, the only thing with him walking down the tunnel, maybe he's just frustrated. You know, maybe he was promised he was going to play, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, no, your knee's like just not to where you need it to be. And he's like, no, I feel good. I want to play. And they're like, no, you're not allowed. So maybe it's more of a frustration. I think he was like, well, sod it. I should be out on that pitch. I'm not going to sit there and watch them all play. But
yeah.
You do get that sense of like we're in a relegation battle. We kind of need to, you know, stick together a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah.
But maybe he was just frustrated. Maybe maybe it's not the case of like, oh, I'd have to play tonight. Oh, I'm just sodding off then. I don't feel like a player would do that.
No.
I don't know. It's hard to say. I think there's definitely some light in the tunnel for him. And he's a very unique player. You know, he's like a Harry Kane sort of player. He drops into spaces. He's got an excellent shot on him. His passing is unbelievable. Like for a striker, his passing is absolutely unbelievable. So for me, he's, you know, with Antonio going out the door in the summer, Ings sort of being that fringe sort of league striker, you know, it's there for him to grab. It's there for him to be our number one striker. And if he supposedly does love life in England, then I don't see why he wouldn't. The only reason I don't is I just think he probably just fed up with Moyes. You know, Moyes refused to play him for a while. Hasn't really played the system that suits him. Again, hasn't really praised him either in press conferences and stuff like that.
No.
If there's a fresh manager in the summer, which I'm severely hoping there is, I'm hoping they can convince him the same way that now Vlasic supposedly might be coming back to the club and not being bought by his parent club, which I don't think it's up to us anyway whether that happens or not. It's up to the player and the club, but maybe
it's Torino, isn't it? Torino is on loan at. Yeah, so I've heard that as well. I don't know how true all that is. I don't know with Vlasic, but you're right. It's a strange one with Scamacca. I don't want this to be the end because as you say, the things we've seen of him have been good. Like he looks a very good player. All right, the system hasn't quite worked for him, but we're not going to talk about that at the moment because that's a David Moyes scenario. We don't want to go down that path, but you do sort of. It just has all the hallmarks of a player that's not happy. So it's very strange. It's a hard one to understand because from what we're hearing from the football clubs, it seems to be the opposite, that he's actually very committed. And even when X was asked about this, about Scamacca leaving, it was all very much like, no, nothing to worry about at all. He just came in for a scan. It made more sense for him just to go home and watch the game indoors. But again, like you say, think about it logically. Like, you know, if you're Scamacca, why wouldn't you just stay? Why wouldn't you support the team? Just it doesn't look good. You walking off and saying, I want to watch it from indoors, whatever the reason. Even if he had an appointment, why not move the appointment? Do you know what I mean? If he had to go and have his knee scanned, so I'll tell you what, we'll make it tomorrow. Stay and support the team. We want you around the dressing room. We want you around the club because we want you to be part of it. It just doesn't look great, but it is what it is, mate. Unfortunately, I just think the writing's on the wall a little bit with Scamacca. My gut feeling is if we do change the manager in the summer, that will probably give him a more lease of life to stay at West Ham at least for another season. But I would be stunned if Moyes is kept on this summer. I really cannot see Scamacca staying there. I really can't. But who knows? You know, maybe it'll be Hammy 73rd striker this time. Lucky, you never know, mate.